Hi everybody. Today's class is going to be about how to respond with to and either. As you can see here, we have to, which means también, and neither, which means tampoco. We are going to use to and neither in responses, okay? Well, patterns to respond in affirmative sentence. In affirmative sentence, we are going to use to, alright? For example, in here. If you are using the verb to be, the pattern that you're going to use in your response is going to be with the verb to be to. For example, here, if you are using am, you have to respond with am, okay? For example, here, I am happy, so you can respond, I am too. So, in Spanish, yo estoy feliz, I am too, yo también. If you are using other verbs, for example, light, work, study, other verbs, like an example you have here, I like English. Remember that you are not using the verb to be here. And if you are not using the verb to be, you are going to need an auxiliary verb to respond. Remember the patterns to respond with simple present tenses is do and does. In this case, I'm using do because I'm talking about myself. For example, here, look at examples. I like English. I can respond, I do too. Remember, too means también in Spanish. It's like if you say, me gusta el inglés, I do too, a mí también. I am using do because it's the pattern I have to use with other verbs in simple present tense, okay? Another example, if you are using can, in your patterns when responding, you have to use can. For example, here, I can speak English, I can too, right? Yo puedo hablar inglés, I can too, yo también. Okay, in short, if you are using the verb to be, you have to use the patterns of the verb to be in your response. I am happy, I am too. If you are using other verbs, such as like, go, play, eat, you are going to use in your patterns the auxiliary verb do or does, depending on the person in the response. For example, I like English, I do too, a mí también. If you are using can, you are going to use can in your response, alright? For example, if I can speak English, I can too, okay? Now, remember that you are going to use to only in affirmative sentences when you agree with the first opinion, okay? When you agree with the first opinion, remember, you have to use to in your responses. Now, on the other hand, we have either. Remember that I'm also going to use either in responses, but either is going to be used with negative sentences, okay? Either means tampoco, alright? For example, here, if you are using the verb to be, you are going to use the verb to be in use response with either, alright? For example, I'm not tired, I'm not either, which means yo no estoy cansado, yo tampoco. With other verbs, you have to use the auxiliary verb, remember don't or doesn't. For example, here, I don't understand. You can respond, I don't either, which means yo no entiendo, I don't either, yo tampoco, alright? If you are using can, you have to use can't in your response. For example, I cannot go, I cannot either, okay? Which means yo no puedo ir, I cannot either, yo tampoco. Okay, in short, I'm going to give you a short review. In negative sentences, we are going to use either. Just in negative sentences, you are going to use either to respond, okay? Alright, the patterns you are going to use, if you are using the verb to be, you have to use the verb to be in your response. For example, here, I'm not tired, and you are going to respond, I'm not either. Either is always placed at the end of my sentence. So you have the subject, the patterns in negative, and either. Alright? I'm not either. Yo tampoco. If you are using other verbs, you have to use the auxiliary verb don't or doesn't if you are talking about he, she, it. For example, here, I don't understand. I don't either. Okay, you have to use subject, auxiliary verb in negative, and either at the end. If you are using can, you have to use can in your response. For example, I cannot go, I cannot either. Remember, subject, can in negative, not plus either. Okay? Now let's try it with another sentences. For example, if I have here, remember, if you have an affirmative sentences like this one, for example, I study English. So if you want to say yo también, remember how are you going to respond? First of all, you have to see here in this example, I study English, that the sentence is in affirmative. And then you have also to pay attention in the tense of the verb. If you are using a simple present tense verb, remember you have to use the helping verb such as do or does. Okay? If I am using I've studied English, my response is going to be, remember, I do too. Okay? In the same order, I do too. Okay? Another example. I am tired. I'm tired. Estoy cansada. I'm tired. If I want to say yo también, remember that you are using the verb to be. The pattern in this sentence is the verb to be. Is the same verb to be that you have to use in you respond. Remember, in the same order. I'm tired. And you have to answer I am too, which means yo también. Another example. I can speak English. What is the pattern in this sentence? The pattern in this sentence is can. I can speak English, so the answer is I can too. Okay? Don't forget it. For affirmative sentences, you have to use to. Remember that the position of to is at the end. First subject, auxiliary verb, and to. Subject, auxiliary verb, in this case the pattern of the verb to be, and to. To is always placed at the end of your response, okay? Now, if you are using a negative statement such as this one, for example, I don't eat fish. I don't eat fish. So that means that you are using a negative sentence. And if you are using, if you are using a negative sentence, remember that you have to respond with either, which means tampoco. You say here, I don't eat fish. Yo no como pescado. If I want to say yo tampoco, remember that you have to answer. Pay attention to the pattern. If you are using the auxiliary verb, with the same auxiliary verb, you are going to answer. I don't eat fish. You have to say I don't either. Either is always placed at the end of the response, okay? For example, I don't eat fish. I don't either, okay? Yo tampoco. Another example. I'm not interested in Spanish. You say here, I'm not interested in Spanish. You are using the pattern. You are using here is the verb to be. but remember that I have to use negative. In this case, I want to say, I'm not interested in Spanish. So if I want to say, yo tampoco, remember you have to respond, I am not either. Okay? Remember, the same pattern that you use in the first sentence is the same pattern that you're going to use in your response with either. Remember to use either at the end of the sentence, okay? Another example. If you have here, I cannot cook. So, I cannot cook. Yo no puedo cocinar. If I want to say, yo tampoco, you have to respond, I cannot either. Okay? So, remember, if you are using the pattern cannot in the first sentence, is the same pattern that you are going to use in the response, okay? For example, such as this one. If you are using I cannot cook, I cannot either. I am not interested in Spanish, I'm not either. For example here, I don't eat fish. The same pattern is repeated in your response. I don't either, right? Do you see it? Okay? In affirmative, I study English. Remember that you are not using the verb to be here, therefore you need a helping verb, and this helping verb is do. I do too. Remember, to is placed at the end of your sentence. I am tired. The same pattern you are using here is the same that you are going to use in your response. I am too. Alright? I am tired. I am too. If you are using can in your sentence, it's the same pattern that you're going to use in your response. Okay? So, any question about this? It's just when you agree with the first opinion. I study English, I do too. I'm tired, I am too. I can speak English, I can too. In negative, I don't eat fish, I don't either. Okay, listen. I'm not interested in Spanish. I'm not either. I cannot cook, I cannot either. Okay, if you have any question, please keep in touch with me. And when we have the class in the classroom, we can talk about it. Okay, thank you for watching, and I hope you can work with the practices in your platform. See you in the classroom. Remember to practice at home.